Hey everybody, it's Julie Henricus and it is Friday. Happy Friday. It is day 5 of my Muse mapping mini trainings, and just to recap where we are and what this is going on, I'm doing it live on Instagram and on Facebook, so I'm going to be looking at 2 cameras, but I'm really happy to be here, and I wanted to talk about Muse mapping to as many people as possible, which is why I'm doing them live. I save the videos on Facebook. I get them captioned. I'm putting them on IGTV, and they're also on my YouTube station. So YouTube channel. So it's all there. And just to bring everyone up to speed, Muse Mapping is a program that I have created. It's a 6-step process. The program itself, which will include weekly videos, worksheets, Facebook group to support each other, and live coaching with me is, hi Grace, I'm glad you're here, is going to start on November 18th. I'm taking applications now. So if you go to musemapping.com, you can apply for the program. What will happen is you'll fill out a form, and then you will set up a time to talk to me so I can tell you more about it. And we can make sure you're a good fit before you join. So I know that these programs are an investment, and I honor that, and I want to make sure that we're a good fit working together. But I also want to support as many people as I can in as we go into 2020, and we want to have our artistic dreams aligned, and we want to sort of come up with a plan on how make our creative journey happen. Muse mapping was inspired, or I was inspired to create it by folks who I would talk to who had, done something back in the day in college or high school and had let it go. And when they talked about it, they got a wistful look in their eye. Or people who had started a book, and then, started whatever journey they were on, and then they abandoned it. Or people who were afraid to even start. I've always wanted to do this, and I've never done it. I haven't been brave enough. Well, I think that bravery isn't waiting for the fear to go away. It's doing it despite the fear. So I'm really happy to talk to folks about Muse mapping and about what this plan is, because I do think your creative journey and tapping into your creativity is one of the great gifts of life. So how can we help more people do that? Exactly that. So the 3 steps that we've talked to, this is day 5, but we've talked about 3 steps before. The first one is actually preparing for the journey, doing the inner work, figuring out what your why is. The second step is dealing with the blocks, obstacles, and beliefs that might get in your way, being able to anticipate them. And, in Muse mapping, we deal with a lot of the tools that you can develop in order to get over those blocks, obstacles, and beliefs, because they're always there, no matter how established you are in your career, how confident you are in your abilities. Things crop up and they get in your way. The third step was doing research and sort of evaluating what the options are. And that's, for me, that's like taking off the blinders and exploring what your creative journey can be like and can look like. And, the 3 things we talked about yesterday in that were channels of distribution, or how you can get your work out there, honing your craft, and also building your community. 3 very important parts. So today I'm going to talk about the 4th part, which is drafting a plan. And again, Muse mapping, the idea is that you have an empty sheet in front of you, and by the end of the program, you will have a mapped out plan and strategy and way of being on your joyful journey. And drafting plan is the 4th step. I mean, a lot of times people will skip the step, and then they'll go right to drafting a plan, and then get frustrated because they don't adhere to it, because you read the books and you do this and you do that, and then the plan doesn't work for you. Well, it's because you have to do the inner work and really figure out what you want to do before you can go to any plan. I can tell you how I time manage and how I plan things out. And I will talk about that a lot in the Muse Mapping program, because that's the conversation I have with most creative people, is about time management. But my tools and what I can offer aren't going to be exactly, and then buy this planner and it can work. I have a stack of planners that were abandoned in 2019. I have found one that works for me, but we'll see how long that lasts. So drafting a plan is about more than buying a planner. Drafting a plan is taking your dreams, making them into goals, turning them into SMART goals, and then turning them to actionable items, and then scheduling those actionable items. So SMART goals are specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. It's a business speak term, and you'll find me, again, I balance the artistic with the business side of the world. But there's the SMART goal idea is also good for you as a creative person, because it will say, I want to write a book is not a SMART goal. That's a goal. I want to write a 60,000 word manuscript by November 30th. That's a SMART goal. NaNoWriMo happens in November. Lots of folks are doing it. NaNoWriMo is writing a book, a draft, the first draft of your book in November. So there are accountability groups that are found. There are achievement goals. There are meetups. There are ways, you can go to a library and find a NaNoWriMo group, and then, everyone writes together. There's a ton of ways that are developed to encourage you to reach your goal. And November 30th is the end of NaNoWriMo, and I think the goal is a 50,000 word manuscript. That is hard to do, but how great is it that the resources are there? Once you can finish that draft, then you can work on it, or you've learned how to write a book, and maybe that's going to drive you somewhere else. So it's all really, really relevant and really helpful stuff. So drafting a plan is about creating those SMART goals. It's also about your time management. So I can say, I want to finish a draft of a novel, I want to do NaNoWriMo, but unless I say every day I'm going to write, and second part, carve out the time in my day to write, I'm not going to get it done. It's the same with everything else in your life, right? It's the same with working out. It's the same with meditating. It's the same with journaling. It's the same with grocery shopping. If you don't carve out the time and intentionally say, I'm going to do it these times, then it doesn't get done. So time management, we all have the same 168 hours. We all need to get sleep. Most of us need to get more sleep than we do. We all need to be with family. We need to commute. We need to work. We need to do the millions of things that we need to do. But making the priorities is part of what drafting a plan is, because it's not enough to say, I want to get this done, or I want to get this done by this date. It's like, then how are you going to make that happen? And how are you going to make that happen that realistically works with your life? I find for myself, I will create goals that are they're not possible because they don't work with my life. I'll be in the middle of grading huge paper and say I can write a blog post and I can also do a phone call on the same day. It's like, I can't do all three of those things. Now I'm understanding that, and I've gotten in the habit of taking these measurable steps. So if my goal is to write every day for the month of November, then I'm going to carve out the time to do it. If you're an actor and your goal is to read a new play once a week, that can be a goal. That's a good SMART goal. But unless you carve out the time to read every single day the play, you're not going to achieve it. So this is what we're trying to do and trying to figure out, is how can you take your dreams, drafting a plan, and make them actually really achievable. Hey, Cheryl, it's good to see you too. Um, and one of the things I also talk about in the Muse Mapping program are morning routines, which can include things like meditating, moving, journaling, things that just set your day off on the right path and the right way forward. Again, I balance, my two parts of my world. I can be very business driven and I can do all that stuff. But when it comes to the caring and feeding of my the artist within, I've realized that I need to do things intentionally, and again carve them out for time on my schedule, and they include things like meditating and taking care of myself and moving every day to deal with stress and all the rest of that sort of things, taking walks, to help get the mind whirring and all the rest of that. So drafting a plan is more than just setting goals. It's about actually doing things. And when we're talking about this, and one thing I want to offer as an actionable step, because in these mini trainings, I sort of give you a broad overview and then we have an actionable step, is I would love you to set time on your calendar once a week to feed the artists within you, to feed your creative soul. So whatever artistic journey you're on, you are going to be inspired by certain things that are within your domain, and then things outside. So again, I'm a mystery writer. I read. I read books. I'm reading aspirational books now. I'm reading books that are beautifully written or beautifully plotted, so that I could say I would love to do that someday. But reading doesn't always, my brain is always thinking as a writer. So some of the things that feed my artistic soul include going to a museum, or going to a park, or painting, which I'm not very good at, but I do enjoy tremendously, or baking, or doing other things that are creative, and they're getting the juices flowing, but they're not as directed as they might have been in other ways. So setting up an artist date for yourself once a week, even if it's an hour, of going to a gallery, going to a museum, going to a play, listening to music, reading a book that's different, or reading something that, that inspires you in different ways. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, but I really think that that working on achieving those goals, of having artist dates with yourself and feeding yourself intentionally for this hour. You don't have to explain it to anyone else. Just carve it out in your calendar and say, for this hour, or 2 hours, even better, I'm going to do this thing. You can certainly do it with other people, and that's great. But I think sometimes as a creative person, you also need to do it by yourself, because you're feeding yourself. You're feeding your own creative soul. And so that is actually part of drafting a plan, is creating these times and these opportunities for you to feed the artist within, and to take care and nurture yourself. So that is part of the conversation I have around step 4 of the Muse mapping system, which is feeding the artist within, part of the drafting the plan system. So thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to be back here tomorrow and Sunday. I may be coming on early because family celebration has come onto the calendar, and so stay tuned. But again, all of these videos are available on my YouTube channel as soon as I get them captioned. They're on Facebook page, Your Ladders. They're on IGTV, and they're also in my Facebook group, Awakening the Muse Within. I invite all of you to join me in that group. I would love to hear from you. And this mini training is going through Monday, and I'm very excited about continuing to do them. But Awakening the Muse Within, I'm going to be popping on regularly with different conversations as well. So join me there for sure. And again, musemapping.com. The program is going to start on November 18th. It will run through the very beginning of the new year so that you can start 2020 off well. And I really look forward to seeing some of you there. Reach out if you have any questions. I'm happy to answer them, and I look forward to talking to some of you about the Muse Mapping program. Thank you very much, and I'll see you back here tomorrow. Bye now.